Hello, my name is Weave, and I bought a boat. So, yesterday, I decided to make a purchase of a small sailboat, which I've been interested in learning how to do for a while now, and it was just within my price range of a starter sailboat that I decided to do it. And I decided I'm gonna make a video series and upload this to the internet, and hopefully the things that I learn along the way will help other people and I don't know, provide some people with entertainment. So without further ado, let's go check out the sailboat. Well, we are here at my buddy's property where we are storing the boat, and you can actually see it right over, oh, right over yonder. And let's go have a closer look at it. So this is a 1976 American A6 as advertised on the posting, and we are going to be working on it today. There didn't seem to be any major structural damage, a little bit of nicks and bobs here and there, but nothing that looked at first glance as structural integrity issues. The only concern I have is this set for the mast, which we set up the mast yesterday when it got here, just to kind of see, but everything looks like it's in order and potentially working, but as a buddy of mine pointed out, the only way we're going to know for sure if it is actually waterworthy is to put it in the water. So we're going to try and get it to a point where we can do that. So our goal for today is to actually take the mast back down so we can have a closer look at this right here, the hardware that the mast connects to the deck of the ship, and have a closer look into it, because that's an area that's slightly of concern based on the information the seller gave me and what I saw based on looking at it. Because as you can see, these secure pins do not sit down into the groove of this hardware, and while it might sit pretty stable with how the stays are taut, I would just hate to have it wiggle out of there as I'm sailing. So let's have a look at that first. Okay, so we got the mast off and out of its anchor point, if you would. I think this is called a set or a seat. Not 100% sure, but the big contender that seems to be the problem is this reinforcement plate, which I'm not 100% sure if it needs to be on there. So, and along with the fine people over on Reddit, they seem to also think it's unnecessary. Nobody pointed this out. It just seems like this is a bit of the upper layer chipping, but one thing that was recommended was to take this whole assembly off, check this for structural integrity, make sure this fiberglass isn't soft, which based on a quick pressing doesn't seem to be soft at all. But we're still going to take this off. We're going to have a look at it once the set is off, or seat is off, and see how it looks. And yeah, so let's do that real quick. Okay, so I am under the, what you would call the deck, I guess, in the hull, or below deck, I don't know. It's a small boat. And well, that's not good. That may be mean that's all I've got time for today. But real quick before I get struck by lightning, there is this piece of wood that was bolted in here that I'm about to take off, and I want to see what is underneath. So let's do that. We'll just set this right here, and okay, so it doesn't look too bad. It looks like they probably fixed where the old mast was and whatever damage was caused by the loss of it, and used this piece of wood to reinforce this piece of fiberglass, which just by pressing on it doesn't feel like it's any weaker than the rest of it, so hopefully that's a good sign. Let's go up and see if we can remove that reinforcement plate, though. So that crackling thunder that we just heard is an indication of a potential storm rolling in, and I'm starting to get sprinkled on, even though we've got nice blue skies over yonder. The wind is picking up a little bit, so we're going to wrap it up here for the day, or at least for right now. Might come back after the weather clears out. But real quick, removing that set of bottom screws, or bolts, sorry, and that piece of wood was not enough to allow me to just pull up the reinforcement plate or the bolts. They're kind of wedged in there. I would not be surprised if they are epoxied in some way, shape, or form, but ratcheting on them seems to bring them up just a hair, so next time I come out, I will have to do that. Okay, so the weather cleared up, and I went and did a little shopping, bought a few lines to replace some of the old ones that are on the sailboat already, and now we're going to keep trying to tackle that set piece to potentially get it off and see what we can do with it. Okay, so it's a little hard to see because of the sun being behind me, but ratcheting these bolts up seems to be working, albeit slowly. I'm going to keep trying it, and if it doesn't show noticeable progress in the next couple minutes, I have a rubber mallet that I will try and pound them up from underneath. Okay, so I got the first one out. It didn't take me as long as, a couple minutes, but it was as I thought. There was no threading or anything underneath, because that would just make no sense, and it was just really tight, but I gave it a couple light taps with the rubber mallet and it came right out. So we're going to try and do that to the rest of them. And look at that. Couple good whacks and the whole thing lifted up off the top of the boat. We're going to pluck her off and have a look at the gap here, or what used to be a gap, or is a gap, I should say, and make sure nothing looks bad on the top here, and then see about getting it refitted without this reinforcement plate, if you would, or spacer, because I really don't think that's necessary. Well, we'll be right back. Alright, so as you can see, it's a little not ideal. Some of the fiberglass on top is starting to peel off here, but maybe as a future project that can be, sanded down and a new coat applied. It also looks like they used some sort of putty or there was some sort of putty here to adhere the old set, but yeah, we're just gonna reset the set and try maybe setting up the mast if I can manage it by myself. Alright. So, I noticed why that piece of wood was in here. Because the person or people who replaced the mast or sail bit decided that they didn't need to use the proper size bolts for this particular setup, and there's about a inch-ish or so space without threads, so the piece of wood is just a filler. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put it back in, otherwise my mast won't hold very well. So let's put that back on. Okay, so a thing I thought about after, well, kind of not after, but before, and kind of has been in the back of my mind. I removed this 1/4 inch piece of metal from the seat or set or whatever, the mounting bracket for the mast, and with that also means it's going to sit a 1/4 inch lower, which means I'm going to have to move this pin on what should be a turnbuckle but isn't, and I'm not going to fix that quite yet, but I'm going to move that down one and see where that goes, and if necessary, when the mast is up, I'm going to adjust it. So let's do that. Okay, so I got that adjusted down one, and now really all I have to do to see if all of this work was actually beneficial is to throw the mast back up, and that's going to be a little difficult because the thing's like 40 feet or so. So we will try and figure out the easiest and safest way to throw the mast up by myself, which should be doable in theory, but let's hopefully it's not too complicated. Okay, so before we actually call her a day, we're going to pull some of these lines off and take them back with us. We'll probably bring the sails with us too, so we can pull the jib sheets off that and potentially replace them, or at least have a closer inspection of all of the lines and see where everything is at and see what needs to be replaced, because the one I pulled off for the jib halyard was not looking great, which is why I pulled it off, and then once I pulled it off I noticed it was a lot worse than it actually was. So yeah, so we're going to pull all these off and then we're going to head home. Hello, and welcome to the end of the video. I decided to call it an end for the day because it's starting to rain again, and the second time it got rained out. I had to take a break earlier today due to the rain. It lightened up, so I went back, but I felt like I got enough done today and accomplished the primary goal of what I wanted to do, which was dealing with that mast bracket that anchors it to the top of the boat, and made a few trips, got some extra lines, So I'm going to deal with replacing these lines and take the jib sheet out and replace, not the jib sheet, the jib out and replace the sheets on it so that they are nicer. I'm going to monkey around with lines a bit, figuring out the exact lengths I need them and potentially cutting what I purchased down, because I ended up purchasing 200 feet worth of rope and 4 segments of 50, and for my small 16-foot sailboat, that's probably going to be excessive for most cases. And if I have smaller chunks, I can use them in other places like the anchor or just some other tie-off locations that I'll need. So we're going to end today. Appreciate everyone who finds this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Comment correcting my terminology because I'm still learning it, and any help would be appreciated. Thank you.